Good morning and welcome. Good morning, start of the week there. Hello there to all of you who are with us today. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to my kitchen, to your kitchen at home. If you're watching this Talking Girls Grammar School, welcome, and this is your lesson today. We are going to be doing a double practical here, and we're going to be looking at pastry. We're going to be looking at a different sort of pastry than we did last week. Last week we looked at a pasty pastry. This one we're looking at a different sort of pastry altogether, a Filo pastry. We're going to be looking at doing that, we're stretching it. We're going to use some foraged foods, hopefully, that you've managed to find. If not, we're going to look at some variations on these foods for you today. So great to see you. If you're watching this on YouTube, fabulous. Feel free to leave any comments on the bottom here, like and subscribe as well. If you're watching this, let's say at Talking Girls Grammar School, you can leave your comments down the side there. On the either side, there's a live link up there, and you can post your comments down there. So if you want to put any comments down the side there, feel free to do so. We'll happily go through that one. So like I say, if you want to do that, you can do. If you want to watch a fast forward, pause, replay, obviously you can do that via YouTube, and you can also do that via the class as well, live class that we've got going on now. You can always pause and carry on as we go. So fabulous, nice to see you all again, and thank you again for joining me this morning in my kitchen. So today, what are we doing today? Well, let me go through very quickly, just show you the recipe we're looking at today. We are going to be doing something to say, using some forage foods today. We're going to be using a cheese and nettle Börek, or a stuffed Spanakopita. Spanakopita. It's a cross between a Greek and Turkish recipe here, more of a Turkish recipe than Greek. But we're going to be looking at that part of the world, and we're going to be looking at this sort of thing. So let me quickly show you the recipe there. There we go. There's a recipe up there for you. Cheese and nettle Börek. So this is like a wonderful stuffed pastry that forms a lovely round, like a spiral design, and we're going to have a go at making that today. And now, if you've not got any fresh nettles, that's fine. You can always use spinach in this one. Works lovely. That more of a traditional recipe there. And then we're going to be seasoning it with either paprika, nutmeg. I'm using a bit of nutmeg today for mine, and we're going to be rolling these into some beautifully shaped pieces. Now you can use this for both the savoury and a sweet. So if once we've done that, if you want to have a look at making that into a sweet, your Filo pastry into a sweet, you can do that one with some fruity Filo nests, which are also quite nice to have a go at. So we'll have a go at making the pastry first, and then we'll see what we can fill and how we can fill these ones. So it's a different sort of pastry. Last time we looked at puff pastries and short crust pastries. We're now looking at a Filo pastry. It's a very thin pastry. Right, let's get back to me and we'll talk about those in a bit more detail. Okay, I say if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down the side as well today. So I'm just going to go back to me. There we go. Right, like I say, nice to see you all this morning at Talking Girls Grammar. Great to see you at one of our classes today, and if you're watching this live, you can always pause, rewind and carry on as we're going through. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can obviously carry on doing the same thing as well. It's nice to see you. We've got people from all around the world watching these classes at the moment, which is great. I say Canada, Africa, all over the place watching these. So it's great to be having you at our Talking Girls Grammar School lessons this morning. By myself this morning, my daughter's doing a lot of homework, so we're going to be doing this one just by myself today. Right, before we begin, we need to make sure that we are ready to begin, and that is the food hygiene aspect of all of this. So please make sure you are doing the correct sort of food hygiene. That's making sure you're prepared before we begin in your kitchens at home. Can everyone hear me? Can you just want to let me know down on the messages there that you can hear me down the sides? That would be great. How we got there? Can you all hear me? Can you thumbs up? There we go, so we can see that we're all going on. Now I'm going to get on with some food hygiene. So before we begin to cook, let's just check our food hygiene and make sure we are ready to go with that. Let's go from the top there. Right, let's get onto that one. Oops, there we go. Just going to send that one live to you. Okay. So before we begin, our cheese and nettle Börek, or stuffed Spanakopita. Sorry, my pronunciation is terrible. These Turkish ones. The same as every other lesson, you need to get really good practical. So get yourself ready, get your area ready, and collect your equipment. What we like to use to remember this is the word HATI. We're using the Holiday Educational Learning Packaging. This is Exploring Food and Nutrition for Key Stage 3. Fabulous piece of package there. Now, the way we can remember this HATI is very easily. It's part of what we call our mise en place. That's our getting ready to cook. That's literally from the French to put in place. So H stands for tie your hair back, wear a hat, wash your hands. So you can if you tied your hair back and washing your hands. A is for apron. T is for cleaning your table, and really important that we make sure everything is very clean and neat and tidy. Particularly at these difficult times, we need to be making sure that everything is cleaned properly. It's useful to get a tray, and then on that tray for T, you have an I and an E, ingredients and equipment, and we'll go through what those are in a moment. Okay, so let's get started. We need to wash our hands. We need to make sure we're ready to cook. Okay, so let's do that one right now. So let's move over from my kitchen clean area, over to and let's go and get our hands washed. All right. As we've done before, just make sure you're properly washing your hands for the correct amount of time. So get yourself some soap there, and we need to be making sure that we wash our hands properly. So not just both sides like that, but we need to be doing our fingers. And we are getting right into those nail areas. You need to do your thumbs. Let's make sure we're properly cleaning those. Let's do the back of our hands. Okay, back of the hands properly cleaned there. And let's make sure we're doing our wrists as well, so we are properly cleaned with soap. And then hot soapy water. Okay, so we need to be using this. We're using hot water in this recipe as well today. But hot soapy water. So as you would do there, both like that. Then we're just going to do our fingers again, fingernails. We're going to do our thumbs, both thumbs. We're using the back of our hands, We get to do those wrists as well. Wash all of that soap off in hot soapy water. Okay, I think we're ready to go there. So once you have done that and you've dried up your hands, let's make sure we've got your aprons on. So you need to be making sure you've got your aprons and what you're going to be wearing. So I'm just getting my apron on there this morning. Make sure you are not going to get your clothes covered in food, and we don't want to make sure we don't want any contamination into what we're going to eat before we cook. So we've got our hands washed, nice clean aprons on, chef whites on there. Fabulous. There's even more of you joining us. Thank you for all of you at Talking Girls Grammar, or if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us at our lessons today. Okay, so aprons on. We're getting an apron on there as well. And we are ready to go, I think. Fabulous. All right, we have got our aprons on. We are ready, hands washed. We are ready to go. I don't need to worry about my hair. I've got so little of it. I don't need to tie mine up. But if you've got your longer hair there, make sure you've got that one tied up, ready to go. And let's get going on today's lesson for you. All right, it's back to my workstation here, and we're going to be starting by making your pastry. Now this is a very odd pastry we're making today. So we're making a sort of pastry we call a Filo pastry. Okay, so Filo pastry. And we'll write that on the board there. Filo pastry is what we're going to be having a go at today. Now, to make our Filo pastry, we are going to need to do a few different things. We can see it coming over my head now. It's going to be go through the whole for today. There we go. So to make our Filo pastry, we are going to need to do a very different sort of thing. We're still going to need to use our flour, and we're still going to need to use our fat, as you would do in any pastry. But how we combine it and what we do with it is very, very different. When we were using the pastry and the fat before, we were getting the flour and we were cutting in and rubbing in the fat, and it was a solid piece of fat. Okay, so look, here we go, a solid piece of fat. So we got a block of solid fat there, and we were putting that into the flour. Okay, now we're going to be changing from a solid piece of fat in this Filo pastry to a liquid fat. So we've got some liquid olive oil here. Okay, now if you can use a vegetable oil if you haven't got any of that, we'll just use what you've got in the lockdown lather. But we're using it in a liquid form rather than using it in a solid form. Okay, now that difference between pastry fats, if they are in a solid or a liquid, is down to what they are at room temperature. Obviously, we're at a lesson here today. So fats. If fats are solid or liquid, at room temperature, and that difference between solid and liquid is something we call plasticity in food. Plasticity, that means whether it is solid, plasticity, there we go, plasticity. Now, plasticity is whether something is solid or liquid at room temperature. And why is something solid or liquid at room temperature? The reason it is because it's all down to whether it's got a high or low melting point at room temperature. If it's got a different melting point, it's going to, at room temperature, it's going to be either liquid or it's going to be a solid. Now, we know this because if we melt this, and we're going to be melting this butter later, it will turn into a liquid. So we'll know that once it's got a higher temperature, it's going to become a liquid. So key term for today is going to be plasticity. Okay, so plasticity is a key term of what we're going to be doing when we make these wonderful things. All right, so let's get on with our making. Let's get on with our Filo pastry and looking at plasticity. We need to combine these two together. So let me just go get you back to the recipe there. So just 1 minute. There we go. Ready. So to get ready for our recipe, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make sure we've got 375 grams of flour into this one, and into this one we're going to be putting 150 millilitres of water and 45 millilitres of olive oil. Okay, so we're going to need to make sure we've got all of these ingredients together, and we're going to bring these together, and then we're going to be kneading them. Now, once we've kneaded them, it does say for this recipe, rest for an hour. This is fine to rest for half an hour. That's absolutely fine. While we work on the fillings and what's going to be going into there. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about fruit provenance and what the fillings are. So half an hour will be fine for this recipe. Ideally an hour, but you can do this one in half an hour. So let's get these things together, and I'm going to talk you through these ones in a bit more detail. So let me go and send this slide. There we go. So what you're going to need to have ready for this one is a few different things. I'll write it on the board there, so you've got it as well. So you've also got the recipe card there, but as I'm going along, you're going to need 375 grams of flour. Now, all-purpose flour is fine for this one, just a plain flour. I'm just using today just a bog standard plain flour. Now, if you can't get hold of plain flour at the moment, I've said it before, it's worth going to commercial suppliers at the moment, people that might supply pubs, restaurants or schools. And I'm using our school supplier who now delivers to households. That's Bid Food. Let me just write that up there so you know that's Bid Food. Bid Food is our supplier at school of ingredients, and they're the ones we're using who are now doing home delivery. So if you speak to your parents, if there's or parents at home, if they're struggling to get hold of this one, they deliver to you. Now, if you're looking at this on YouTube nationally, they do deliver across the whole of the UK. So if you're watching this back on YouTube, you can also get that one there. But look at other commercial suppliers as well. There's some great ones out there. Have a look at you'll go down to your local or email your local pub if you can walk to it from your house. Email them beforehand and see if they've got any spare ingredients they might be able to leave outside for you to pick up. We've been doing that one in our village with breads and flour from the local pub. They've been leaving it outside. So lots of different ways to get hold of it. Anyway, 375 grams of flour. Into that, we're going to be adding 150 millilitres of warm water. Now, when it says warm water, you want to try and make it as hot as you comfortably can do on this. And then in with that, we're going to be putting 45 millilitres of olive oil, and we're also going to put in some lemon juice. Okay, I'm going to put in there about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Okay. That's what we're going to be adding into our ingredients when we do this one. So let's get on and do this one. So I've got my bowl here. And we're going to add all of our ingredients to it. So, you normally gradually add your fat into it. We're going to be adding the liquid into this one, and we're going to have to knead it. Why are we doing these things, and what are we doing these different things? So let's get first of all get our flour in, and I'll explain as we're going along. So you need to measure out 375 grams of flour first of all. So I'm just going to be putting in that one. Now, if you haven't got scales at home, good way of being able to remember to do this one is the old double handful way of doing this one, to remember what is 100 grams. So for your hands, and I'm just going to put that one in there, 375 as you're doing this at home. Okay, 375. So double handfuls, if you're at home, like that, for your size hands, about 100 grams. So 3 like that is going to be about it if you haven't got any scales at home. Okay, so I've got my 375 grams of flour just there. Move back so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So 375 grams of flour is in there. Now, in with that, we're going to be putting in our water and olive oil. Now, the water is going to help develop something in this called our gluten. So we're going to need to develop our gluten in here. So the flour is for our gluten. Now, to get that gluten developed, we're going to need to add some water to that, and we're going to be adding a warm water, so as hot as you can go on this one. So I've got my warm water here. We're looking at 150 milliliters of really hot water, so I've got some hot water in there. Tap water will be absolutely fine for this case one, okay, but the warmer the better on this one. The reason we're going to be doing this one is we need to speed up the process, because ideally when you're making a filo pastry, you can leave the pastry overnight, but we want to get this working a bit faster. So we're going to try and unfurl and trying to change the proteins into gluten as quickly as we can. So warm water is one way of doing this. So we're going to add some warm water into there. That just starts to work with those proteins that are in there. There's already proteins in there called gliadin and glutenin, which we need to turn it into gluten as quickly as we can. What other things can we do to change the proteins? Now, proteins are long chains of amino acids all bundled up, and we're going to be changing those. So we need to change the structure of those long chains of amino acids. So one thing we'll do that is warmth. So we're going to be doing a warm water in there. Another thing is lemon. Now, if you haven't got lemons or you haven't got any lemon juice at home, then what you could use is a white vinegar. So if you've got any white vinegar at home, that would just be able to be, we're only putting in about a tablespoon. You could use others, but it's just about the flavouring that's going to come out at the end here. I say I'm going to use a lemon. Now, if you're wanting a little tip here when you're putting in your lemon juice, so and then we'll put in the oil as well, of fat. But if you want a little tip here when you're doing your lemons, so you can get your lemon juice in there, you might have a posh little lemon squeezer. But again, I'm going to show you things if you haven't got these at home in our lockdown larder situations. So cut your lemon in half. You'll notice I'm using a bridge cut there. I'm going to cut the lemon in half there on the board. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of clean film here, and then just to stop all the seeds going through, I'm going to, there we go. So I've got the clean film there. I'm going to put that clean film over the top of my lemon. I'm going to give it a few little holes in the top. There we go. Just careful. There we go. Put some holes in the top. Now I can squeeze this lemon juice through without actually getting any pips in. So I'm just going to squeeze in my lemon juice into this one. There we go. Put that one in, a bit of lemon juice in there. You're looking at about a tablespoon of lemon juice in this one as we're going along. Okay, so if you've got small lemons, I might try another one just to get some more lemon juice in there. You can reuse your clean film there. Take that one on there. And one single-use plastics. There we are. We'll reuse that one. Going to do the same with the other lemon piece and just get some of the juices going through that one. There we go. You can see them just going into there as well. All right, so I've got warm water, lemon juice, or if you haven't got lemon juice, you can always use lime juice. You can always use a little bit of white wine vinegar would work with this. And if you haven't got any of those, then it will work without. You just might need to leave it for a little bit longer to rest after we've kneaded it. Okay, so we're just going to carry on there. Okay. And we need to add our fats now. So our fats we're going to be putting in here. We're going to be putting in here to 45 milliliters of fat. Here is my fat. Ideally, you want something like an extra virgin olive oil, but any kind of oil would work. It's particularly, say, olives is going to be a better one, but if you want for flavour-wise, you could add vegetable oil if you wanted to. So this is absolutely fine. I'm going to be putting in there 45 milliliters, which is around about 2 tablespoons if you're looking at what we're going to be doing with that one. So this is where our fat's going to go in our flour. So we're turning this from what might be considered like a basic bread dough almost into something that's now going to become more of our pastry. So we're going to be adding a little bit more fat in there. Okay, so it's around about 2 tablespoons if you're not measuring this out. So 45 milliliters of oil in there. Okay, so now I've got, if you can see in there in my bowl, I've got my flour, my hot water, I've got my oil, and I've got a little bit of lemon juice in there. And now is the time to start to get those together, and we're going to put them together into our recipe. So if I show you now up onto the recipe card where we're up to. Okay, so you can see now we've added the plain flour, we've added the warm water, we've added the olive juice and the lemon juice. And what we're going to do now is we're going to gradually bring all this together. I've done it with a fork here on the work surface, but if you want, I'm just doing it in a bowl to make it a little bit easier now. And we're just going to mix all of those ingredients together. Mix all of those ingredients together into a beautiful dough. Okay, so you can actually start to work with. So let me go back to myself. There we go. We'll see what we're doing there. Oops. There we go. All right, back to me. So I've got all my ingredients there. Just going to mix that together with a wooden spoon. I'm just going to mix all of those ingredients together. Now it doesn't look quite like a pastry, but with pastry is what we're looking to make. We're making this Filo pastry over here, but that's what we're looking to make as a Filo pastry at the moment. But it doesn't quite look, it does still look more like a bread mix, but carry on working with it. So we're going to need, why is it so liquidy? Why is it more like a bread mix than a pastry? Well, we need to work this gluten in the same way as you would do with a pastry. We want it to be very, very stretchy. This pastry is called a Filo pastry, and it gets its name from, it means leaf. It's actually comes from the word leaf. So Filo means leaf, and we want it to be a leaf thin pastry. Now, for it to be a leaf thin pastry, we're going to have to really work this one. So let me just get that one in. If you want to get a maximum here, get it to the bowl so it's like in a headlock. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn that one. There we go. Around we go, and we're just going to turn, and make this. Now, if you have got a something like a stand mixer, you can just see my stand mixer in the back there. Someone was just saying, what is that? This is my stand mixer in the back here. If you've got one of those, brilliant. You could use that with a dough hook, and that would work. So it's a similar sort of setup as you would have when you're making bread the first time. But I'm just going to show you, if you haven't got one of those, a bowl, and I'm just mixing this up into a firm dough. Okay, now I've got that into my dough there, and I'm now going to start to do as you would do with bread to get that really good stretchy gluten together. I'm going to start to knead it. Okay, so I'm just going to get the last bits of that out of my bowl. If it's a little bit too dry, you can obviously add a little bit more warm water. If it's a little bit wet, add a little bit more flour to this. But we should end up with a nice dough in the middle there. There we go. So I've got my bread dough there. You can start to see that one. Got bread dough, pastry dough, and I'm just going to start to knead that now. Now, how do you knead? A little recap on the kneading process. As you would do with a bread dough, you want to be using your palm of your hand, and you want to be using the heel of the palm of your hand, which is like this part here of your hand, and you want to be getting the maximum effort into it and stretching it across the board. So what you're doing is you're pushing in and stretching back. Pushing in and stretching back to try and develop that gluten, that stretchy stuff in there that you might find in the bread as well. Now we're going to just stretch it back and pull, stretch it back and pull. And you need to be doing this for around about 10 minutes. Now if it gets sticky, just get some flour on your work surface. There we go, so it doesn't stick to the work surface, and that's fine. It doesn't stick to your hands, and we're just going to work that one around. Now there's two ways we can do this one. We've talked about this in class. There's the kind of Mary Berry way or the Paul Hollywood way. The Paul Hollywood way would be one hand behind your back, stretch right into it, and there we go. I'm pushing into it. Now we're not tearing this. We are pushing in. We get maximum amount of energy into this one. We're going to get all of that energy from you into there to transform the two proteins that are in there at the moment, gliadin and glutenin, into the new protein called gluten. We're really pressing into it now. Mary Berry way of doing this. Two-handed, one across and fold, one across and fold, one across and fold, one across and fold. So you can either, as long as you get a good rhythm going to develop this gluten, okay, so develop something that's stretchy and elastic. Now you can start to see it's already forming into something that is quite stretchy already, but for 10 minutes is what you need to be doing for this one, so you can see what we're doing. Anyone struggling with that? Any comments down the side? No, we're okay, everyone's all right so far, following it nicely. And we're just going to keep kneading that one and kneading and kneading and kneading and kneading. Okay, you're going to be doing that one for 10 minutes so we can develop that gliadin and glutenin into your mix. Okay, if you get it stuck on your fingers, just give your fingers just to rub together. There we go, and just clean those ones off, and then all of that bread dough will come off a bit like dried glue that they used to do at primary school. I'm just going to keep kneading that. Is everyone kneading well? Everyone kneading going okay? So if you want to leave a message down the side, and I'll be able to do answer any questions. If anyone's got any shout outs, birthdays, anything going on that they want to do while we're doing this, feel free. I know we might have some music going on a little bit at school when we're doing this sort of kneading process. Maybe you've got some music going on in your kitchen. What sort of music would you be having to knead along to at home? I'm just going to do 2 hands now. I'm just going to stretch into this one, back and forth there while I'm doing this one. So what sort of things would you be doing while you're doing this? Okay, so I did mention 2 names. While you'll carry on kneading this one, I'm going to mention those 2 names, the things we're going to need to make this gluten. So we said we're going to be making gluten. Now gluten is formed from 2 things inside that flour. Those 2 things are gliadine and glutenin. Okay, that's those 2 things, gliadine and glutenin. Those 2 together form the gluten, which is what we want. Now, while you're kneading this one, let me explain how that works and what the properties are of this gluten. So gluten is both stretchy and elastic. Okay, now there you can see it. Ooh, there we go, above my head there. So you can see there you've got gluten made of gliadine and glutenin. Okay, now those 2 things make the gluten. Gliadine and glutenin both have separate properties. One is really, really stretchy, a bit like a balloon, elastic, and the other is plastic in so much as it can be molded in the mold, come back. So we want 2 properties of this gluten. We want it both plastic and elastic. So we're going to keep kneading this one till we've got gluten, which has got both these things. Now it will be quite sticky because glue and gluten both derive their names from sticky. It comes from a Latin word, to stick. So you will get the same sort of thing as you would do with glue in there. Okay, you should now have been doing this one for about 10 minutes. And once you've done this one, if I just hop back to the recipe while you're still kneading this one. Okay, you will see that it says knead for 10 minutes, but not to a sticky dough. It should be a soft but not sticky dough. And then it says rest in an oiled bowl, rest for an hour. Now you don't need to do it for an hour. You can be quite happily do that one for half an hour with this one. But if you want to put a beautiful one, an hour would be fine. Okay, an hour would be the best if you want a beautiful, but half an hour would be absolutely fine. Sorry. So rest that one, and then we're going to get on with the filling. Okay. Now the filling involves an egg. Okay, so we're looking at an egg, 1 egg. We're looking at about 10 tablespoons of nettles or spinach or other greens like that one. You could use parsley in this one, someone said before, even coriander would work nicely with this. And then we need to season it with the nutmeg. I'm going to use a little bit of paprika in there. And we're going to be putting into there also 75 grams of cheese into that one as well. So we're going to be putting in a combination of things to make this one up, but we need to actually cook off our nettles or spinach first. So I'll show you a bit about that while we let it rest. So let's go back to me. Okay, so nice. All right, back to me then. So I've now been kneading this one for 10 minutes and been working this one through. So I've got a beautiful dough. Now, if you're not sure whether it's done, put your thumb inside and watch for it to spring back. That's the gluten working against you. It's quite springy at the moment, so it's actually working against you when you do that one. Now, that's a good sign of gluten, but if we're going to be making some pastry, that's going to be a little bit more difficult because when we roll this out, so it needs to be very, very thin, we don't want it springing back. So we need to let it rest. This is what we're going to be doing at the moment. We're going to be letting it rest. So what we need to do to let it rest is put it in an oil bowl and leave it for that half an hour or so. Okay, that's what we need to do. Now I've done that one already, so I'm just going to check what we're doing with that. So there we go. Someone else just messaged in. Okay. What we need to do now is we're going to be getting this one ready, but I've left mine already in a bowl, so mine is in a bowl. It's actually been in the stand mixer before, so I did mine in the stand mixer. It's in an oil bowl, ready to go for later. So we need to leave that one while we work on the centre. Now, while we work on the centre, we're going to be moving over to our nettles and what we need to do for that. Let's get on to that. So if you're using nettles, brilliant. If you're using spinach, that would work fine on there. Any other questions on there? No, we seem to be doing okay on there. Right, so I've got here our nettles. So I picked these ones this morning. Okay, so it's a whole bowl full of nettles there. We've just picked them at the bottom. Now, while we're in these lockdown larder situations, it's really good to think if you can forage and find some alternatives if you can't get to the shops. So this would be a lovely one, and it smells absolutely delicious. So we've got some beautiful freshly picked nettles from just outside, say, the house here this morning. Now, how do you pick the nettles? So this is a good point. With a lot of people are saying, aren't they stinging? Yes, the sting goes to the top. So when you're picking them, let me grab a piece here. So here is a nettle. The sting goes upwards. So what you want to do when you pick these is if you go underneath the leaves, give them a little twist at the stalk and then pull them off, you'll be fine. So you'll want to be getting them from underneath, and then they're not going to sting you. And we still need to get these ones cooked off though, because they're like you would do with a spinach. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our spinach into a bowl, into a saucepan or a frying pan with some butter, about 60 grams worth of butter. We're going to melt it off, and we're going to cook these ones off for our filling. So we'll leave our dough there, and we're going to. I'll just move our way over. I'm going to move over to my hob here, and we'll cook these ones off. Okay, here we go. So we're just going to move. If you can see me there, there we go. All right. So we're going to cook these ones, the spinach off. I'm just going to wash them first and wash them through. So I've got a colander there. So I'll put my spinach into my colander first of all. There we go. Into that, and then okay. So I've got my spinach in my colander. Just gonna wash all of that through. Just washing all of my spinach through, make sure that's all clean and ready to go. Once I've washed it, I'm going to just chop the leaves off, and going to put those ones with some butter into the pan, and we're going to put them in there just to wilt them down and cook those off before we put them into our fillings here. Okay. Same could be done with the spinach, or if you've got pre-washed spinach, that's going to work fine. Give them a bit more of a through. Okay, so that's my nettles all cleaned through. We're now going to cook those off. So we're going to come over to the pan here, and we're going to cook off our spinach. All right, here we go then. So we're going to cook this one off. We're going to need a little bit of butter in here. Let's put it nice so you can see. We're going to put it in the frying pan with some butter, and we're going to wilt these ones off, ready to cook, to go inside our filling of our pie. When we're doing our sweet one, we can show you what we can use for the pastry there for the sweet one as well. So a little bit of butter in there. Let me just grab a little bit of butter to go into that one. Okay, so I've got some butter in. Put a little bit of butter into my pan. So we get about 60 grams worth of butter into the pan, and switch the heat on there. Now, when you're doing this one, you need to make sure that the pan handle is not pointing out. It should be pointing away, so you're not likely to hurt yourself with that one. Obviously, when you're doing any kind of cooking in the kitchen, make sure a grown-up knows exactly what you're doing in advance. Okay, so we're just going to be putting that one into there with our wilted spinach. Going to get some scissors there, and we'll get that one there. Okay, so I've got my spinach here. I'm going to put the spinach, the nettles in there. I'm going to put those in. Put those leaves in now. And water those off. Now, with nettles, it's always good to try and use the youngest stalks, so they're less bitter. Okay, so try and use the youngest of the youngest ones, the smallest buds if you can, in with the spinach. If you've not eaten spinach before, it has a similar sort of taste to. Sorry, if you've not eaten nettles before, so instead of spinach, it's got a similar sort of taste. It's got it's really lots of fibre in there. Okay, which is really good for you. A lot of vitamin A, vitamin D in there as well. So it's a great source of great source of fibre, great source of vitamins, very nutritious, and should be used. We're going to be making some nettle soup nettle soup later in the week. So if you want to check on the other YouTube channels later, the other YouTube ones later on, you can see us making this one with the nettle soup. We're going to be doing that one with a nettle soup. Now, in with the nettles, I sometimes, or spinach, I would put some onions as well. Now, I've also, like I say, at the weekend, I've been doing my foraging, so I found some other things, which I'll show you in a minute, to go in with these ones. They're not traditional onions. They're what we call a bulb onion, or a three-sided leek onion, it's sometimes called. But they look a bit like a white bluebell or snowdrops. But they have a bulb on them, which is like an onion bulb, which work really nicely with the nettles. So we're just going to chop this. You can see there, I've just got the nettles there. The nettles there are just going into my pan. Just going to wilt those all off in the pan there. In they go. All those wonderful nettle leaves, I can smell them now, wilting off nicely. In with the butter there, forming a beautiful, beautiful mix. Like I say, if you hold the nettles from the other side, you're not going to end up with a sting. So the sting always points up. So if you hold them at the base there, you're not going to end up with them stinging you. Going to get as much of this wonderful, nutritious green nettles into there as we can. Cut all those down when they can wilt down. We don't want the stalk. You could eat the stalk. It's quite a tough one, but I'm just wanting the leaves of this one as we go through. There we go. All those lovely, nutritious ones. That's just stirring that one in. And wilting off nicely there, and the sting will go once you cook them as well. So don't worry about stinging your mouth. You're not going to sting your mouth with this one. So you're just going to, once they're cooked off, they'll lose their sting as well. There we go. Now you don't want to this is a perfect time of the year to be getting nettles and eating nettles. You don't want to be doing them perhaps later in the year when they start to flower. They're not going to be very nice for you then. You want to, this time of year is absolutely perfect for nettles, and you'll find them at the edge of the verges, banks. Don't be going with the ones very close to the road. Obviously, there's not a lot of road traffic at the moment, but you want to be trying to get them back a bit away from the road. And you certainly don't want to be getting them sort of right at the bottom where animals might be urinating on them. That would be a different sort of taste altogether, and we don't want anything like that. So try and make sure that they're young buds, they're not at the bottom, they're not close to the roads. Okay, we just got some more nettles in there. I think that's probably going to be enough. My pan's nearly full now, and we'll use the rest tomorrow for some nettle soup. I'm going to be making nettle soup, and I'm also going to be making nettle scones tomorrow. So if you fancy doing that, you can always watch back any of the ones on YouTube. All the lessons from Talking Girls Grammar are now freely available on YouTube for you to cook along with at home with your parents or whoever's at home with you. So you can try more practicals if you want. You can get more practicals going on there. So I'm just getting the last of those in there now. And they are all wilting off nicely. Yeah, I don't think we need any more there. Put those away. Now they are just reducing down. You can quite see that one there. They're reducing down, steaming away nicely. And as they do, the smell is so good. We've got a lovely smell coming off here of the nettles. So say if you've doing this one at home, so you can do this with spinach, wilt down the spinach with some butter, 60 grams of butter. There's quite a bit of butter in there. But then there's quite a bit of butter in the pastry as well with this one. But we have got a lot of vitamins and minerals that are coming through. A lot of iron in this one as well, which is really good for you, as well as the vitamin A, vitamin C in this one, and the fibre as well that comes with that. So they're all just wilting away nicely there, and that's, I can show you a spoonful of this of how it should be looking right now. That's what we're looking for, and we're just going to leave this to cool now. Once we've got that one, all this wonderful nettles wilting away. I'm going to chop them up a little bit more. Chop those up even thinner while they're doing that one. Wonderful, wonderful. These look lovely. And I can say they smell absolutely delicious. If you could smell these ones, you would not be thinking that these are nettles. They are smelling absolutely delicious. Can you see that all now wilted away there? Right. All right, now let's get back to, we've got that wilted away, that's nicely. In with that, we're going to be putting some cheese. So cheese and an egg. So we need to get our cheese and an egg on there, and we're going to get that one in there. Now I did say there was going to be something else that we can do in that as well. And that was some onions. So you could do some spring onions go in with this very nicely, or chopped onions. Now I was out as well, say foraging at the weekend, and I've also got these. Now these are what might be called wild onions. They're like spring onions. Let me just show you these plants. So you've got here, it looks a little bit like a bluebell. Smells like a garlic. Okay, so it smells like a garlic or an onion, and it's called can be called three-leaf leek. It can be called wild onion. Some people call it bell onion. But if you look at the base of them, here we go. It has actually got like a spring onion base to it. Now, if you're ever unsure on these ones, check, do your research online. I've done these many times before, so I know what I'm looking for. But if you're unsure, either use spring onions. They're very, very nice in with this one. If you've got them, or if you can't get hold of them, and if you want to do a bit of foraging, the flour that you're looking for, let me grab those ones here. Here's the flour that you are looking for. And it smells like wild garlic, although the leaves are a lot thinner. But it's beautiful in this. So I'm going to put in some of that in here. So I'm going to just wash some of that down. And you can just use it like you use spring onions. So I'm going to put some of that in with our mix as well. We'll just add a little bit more in with that, just to chop that one off. Let's see what we do. We use my scissors here just to chop some of that spring onion, or wild onion if you're using it like me, or bell onion as it's sometimes called. I'm going to chop some of that into there as well, just to season it. I can smell that garlicky. You could just put garlic in this one. Put wild garlic. You can get hold of wild garlic. That's beautiful as well. Get that one into there. I'm just going to chop this one up all the way down. This is absolutely delicious. Okay. And we're using foods that's free to us, and if we can't get hold of stuff or ingredients because we can't get to the shops at the moment, or they haven't got stuff stocked in the shops, it's trying to use alternatives for you there. There we go, and that's going into our mix there. So I've got now my nesting nettles from outside this morning, and I've got my bulbs of onion, my spring onion bulbs, my bell bulbs, which again I picked out from the grass on the bank behind me here. So I'm very lucky to be able to get all these different ingredients. But if you're growing wild, but if it's a way of getting things while we're in our lockdown larder situation where you wouldn't normally be able to get them. I'm going to stir that one through, and you can now see that has all the butter's melted. We've wilted all that off really, really nicely there, and that's ready to go. Now, in with this, we're going to be putting our cheese, and you've got 75 grams of cheese into there. Now, ideally, you'd be using a feta cheese. The feta cheese would be absolutely wonderful with this one, but if you haven't got a feta cheese, you can just use a cheddar cheese. It's got that creaminess. It just hasn't got the same consistency. So ideally feta. But I say I know we're in lockdown larder situations, so you're going to find it very difficult to do that one. So if you can't, just go with some cheddar. So that's what I'm going to do here in my kitchen. So I've got some cheddar cheese here, and we're just going to grate some cheddar cheese into that one. You're looking at around about 75 grams of cheese into there. So I'll just get my cheese into that one. There we go. Going to grate my cheese straight into the mix there, save our bowls. And we're looking at around about 75 grams. So if you haven't got a scales on there, 75 grams, that's around about 2.5 to 3 tablespoons worth of cheese into there. And I'm just going to, and you can add a little bit more cheese or take away. That's absolutely fine with this one. Just going to put that cheese into my mix there. Okay, that's going down beautifully. That looks wonderful. Here we go. So I've now got in with that my cheese with my warm nettles or spinach if you're using that one. You could use kale as well if you haven't got any in there. That's beautiful. And you see we've got about half and half mix now of cheese and in with the nettles. Put a little bit more cheese in there, I think, for me. Just so you've got, say, about half and half mix of cheese and your greens on there. That'll be wonderful. Just stir that one through. Oh yeah, that's just starting to melt together as well. I've taken it off the heat now, but the heat of the pan and the heat of the nettles is just making that into a wonderful, gooey, cheesy mix there. Just going to add a little bit more. The reason I'm just doing it into the pan is because I say I haven't got feta and we couldn't get hold of any feta. So the cheddar cheese has got the creaminess of there. And when that just goes into the pan with the pan's still a little bit warm, but it's going in with that wonderful nettles there. And you can just see there, we've got our mix coming together there. So it looks a little bit more like the recipe card. And I'll put the recipe card back up for you in a minute so you can see where we're up to. But you can see that there, that is beautiful. Now, we need to season it. We don't want to be using salt and pepper because salt and pepper is not very good for us. So instead of that, we're going to use some herbs and spices. So I've got some different herbs and spices for you, us today. We're going to be using some nutmeg and some paprika. So I've got my nutmeg and paprika there. Here we have them both. I'm going to put a little bit of paprika in because I like a little bit of heat. Paprika is the one that is a little bit like, you know, those long tubes, sweet crisps you get. Begins with P, ends in ingle. A little bit of that. That's their main spice there. So I'm going to put a little bit of paprika in there, add some heat to that one. I'm going to add some nutmeg now. So a little bit of nutmeg into that. How much for each of these? You'll probably be looking at about half a teaspoon. There we are. I'm just going to put a little bit of nutmeg in there. Nutmeg goes really nicely, cuts through the nettle there. And the paprika adds a little bit of heat and warmth to it all, and earthiness to it as well. So I've got my nutmeg, my paprika in there. That's going beautifully. Right, I have now got my mix for the center of my pie ready to go. Let's go back to the recipe card so you can see where we're up to next, and then you can see what you need to do next. Okay, so as you can see now from the recipe, we have got mixed up with that, our fresh nettles, our cheese, pinch of pepper, you can put pepper in there, we put paprika, nutmeg into our mix already. That's ready to go. Now, the next thing is to start to roll out our pastry. So we need to get that in a moment, but you can see how that's starting to look. The only thing I haven't added to that so far is the egg, and I'm going to beat that egg together once it's all properly cooled down. And then we're going to brush that with melted butter, and we're gonna work on that, so we've got some beautiful melted butter to brush over that. If you haven't got a brush, that's fine. You can use an old paintbrush you've got on there. That would work well to do that one and melt that one off that way. So it's up to you how you want to do that one. But we're going to be brushing that over. So yeah, an old paintbrush would work well, or if you've actually got a pastry brush at home, obviously that would be ideal when using this one. But if you haven't, if you've got an old paintbrush that you can make sure you've boiled so it's clean and you're not going to get any coloured paints out of it, you don't want this to be multicoloured, that would be great. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to put that one in there. Let's get back to me now then, and we'll show you where we're up to now. So oops, let's go back to me. Okay, sending live. Okay, here we go. Back to me. All right. Now we need to work on our pastry. Now we're back to our workstation. I've got my workstation here, and so I've got here on my workstation at the moment my chopping board with flour on it, and I've got my rolling pin ready to go with my pastry. Now your pastry now should be ready to go. I'll just grab mine from my bowl. Okay. So I made some before the lesson here in the stand mixer there, and I'm just going to get that one out in my oiled basin there, which it was in before. So it's ready to go. So it's actually might be going for about an hour already, but half an hour is going to be fine. And you can see already, if you look really closely, you can see already the stretchiness of those gluten strands You just see that on the camera there? It's beautifully stretchy. So what we need to do now is we need to make this as thin as leaves. So that's the next stage for this one. So we've got our mix to go in the middle. There it is, all nicely cooled down now. And that's got the cheese and my nettles in there. We've got paprika and my nutmeg into that. So you add the egg to that one. And now I've got my pastry ready to go as well. So I'm going to roll this one out very, very thin. Now to do this one, I would suggest we're going to divide this mix up. Okay, so I would suggest you divide this one up into at least 6 pieces. So let me just show you how I'm doing that one down here on the board. So if you haven't got a rolling pin at home, what you can use is you can use an old bottle, an old milk bottle or a glass bottle like that would work well. Be careful if it's glass, but I'm just thinking of alternatives. So we're going to divide this into 6 now. Okay, so into half and then into thirds. All right, so I've got 6 different ones. Now we're going to be doing this individually and we're going to roll them out into big sheets that are going to kind of fill the board. Okay, so you want to be as thin as possible. Don't forget to put flour on your rolling pin. Put some flour on my rolling pin, flour on my surface, flour on both sides. I'm going to roll this one out. Now if you've got a pasta machine, you can actually do this on the pasta machine and that would get you very, very thin. You're going to end up with thinner layers there. So you can progressively going down. But I know a lot of people haven't got pasta machines at home, so we're going to use this one without a pasta machine. We're just going to roll this one out very, very thin. And now you've let that one to rest now, you're going to find it's a lot easier to be able to roll out now because the gluten in there is not going to be working against you. It's not going to be pressing against you. So, but I'm just going to roll that one out. Now, if you haven't got a rolling pin, you can always start to stretch this one. You'll find, although it can tear, do the whole pizza bit. So you've got to be careful it doesn't tear. So I find it easier to do. But if it does tear, don't worry. But we're going to roll this one out very nicely and thin. Okay, so I want some nice big discs of it. I'm going to try and fill my whole board up with each of these. There we go. So we got like a leaf, our Filo pastry. And now between those layers, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting more fat. So we're going to brush the fat, and then over the top of that, we're going to be putting the egg. So we're going to be brushing this down to get our layers of fat and flour into our very crisp pastry that is going to be like a leaf, our Filo pastry. So if you can do this in a pasta machine, you can. How thin should it be? You should be able to see through the daylight through this one. So you should be able to see through. You can see how thin that is on the camera there. This is a beautiful, beautiful pastry. So we're just going to make that very thin. And because it's a thin, that's where it gets the name from, like I say, the leaf pastry, the Filo pastry. It's going to be very crisp when we cook this one. And that's why it's really good for making pastry fruit baskets, which we're going to show you how to make in a bit. But also how to make for this wonderful, wonderful Börek dish as well. Now you can buy shop bought Filo, of course. But it's actually not that hard to make, and especially at the moment, we're getting hold of pastries at the moment, it's quite hard. This might be a way of doing it. And you see it's rolling onto the pastry there, sticking a bit. But there we go, we've got a beautiful Filo sheet of pastry there, and that's one sheet to be doing. Now we need to repeat this. I'm going to keep repeating this one with the next one. So again, we've got to put flour on there, and we'll have sheets of this. Wonderful sheets of this pastry. I'm just going to lay my first sheet out onto a piece of greaseproof paper over there. I'm going to get my next one. I'm going to roll that one out next as well. Okay. So I'm going to roll this one into a nice big circle as well. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to be making these ones. Now, to cook them on, we're going to need to put them onto a tray. If you've got like a normal tray, that would work really nicely. Or you can actually use, if you're struggling with getting the shape of this one, you can use an old pie tray, would work well to get the shape, that spiral round shape we want to create with this one. That would work fine. We are going to preheat the oven in a moment, but we don't need to do that just yet. If we have done it already, brilliant, well done. We're just going to keep rolling this one. Any more comments, messages about what we're doing down here? No, okay. So let's get back to me. There we go. Oops, just checking for any more. No, everyone seems to be doing well. Excellent. Okay, that's good. Right, so keep rolling that one out. Now, when to keep rolling that one out, so you've got another leaf, again, lovely stretchy. And although this isn't strong bread flour, it's actually quite a lot of strength to it now. After all that kneading that you've done, you've managed to work that strong gluten in there, that protein in there. So it is quite a strong one. I mean, you could do that whole pizza stretchy thing, but there is the chance of it ripping if you do that one. So I'm just going to roll this one out. Again, so we've got that nice circular piece as much as you can. If it's more of an oblong or a square, it's not going to worry too much. We're going to be layering these up a bit. As long as you can see through. There we go. So that's the second one. Let's lay that one out. I'm going to do a third with this, just so you can see what we're going to do, how it's going to construct it. Down on the top there. Rolling pin. Roll that one out. As thin as you possibly can. Is everyone doing okay with this one at home? Is everyone, if you're watching, might be watching along, might be doing this one later in the week. That's fine, girls. If you're doing that, it's talky girls grammar. You can do this one later in the week if you want to. That's fine. Anytime this week is okay to complete this one. You don't need to complete it all today. If you're watching this at YouTube, there we go. Hopefully yours is going well at the moment. Now you'll manage to stretch yours out. Some of you say might be using pasta machine. To roll this through a pasta machine, it's going to be a lot quicker to roll it through a pasta machine. But like I say, I know not everybody has got a pasta machine at home. So we'll just show you what you can do. And I say some people haven't got rolling pins at home, so you could use a milk bottle if you've got one of those, or a glass bottle if you've got one of those to roll it out with. That's fine. Just be careful when you're doing it. This glass doesn't roll off and smash, or didn't put too much pressure onto that one. You could use an old wine bottle, that would work as well. If you haven't got a rolling pin to roll this out and you haven't got a pasta machine. We have got a lesson we'll be doing later on about how to make your own pasta without using a pasta machine at home. So if you want to do that one, that will be on the YouTube channel as well. So you can show how to make your own pasta from home as well. I'll show you how to make tagliatelle really, really easily without a pasta machine. And you can make some beautiful pasta and some different flavoured ones as well, different flavoured, different colours. We're going to show you how to do that one on our YouTube channels. Okay, there. So we've now got 3 pieces, 3 leaves of pastry there, rolled out really nicely. If you want to check whether yours is okay, you can feel free, girls, to post a picture down the side, and we'll have a look and see how yours is looking as well. But you can see there, I've got my leaf there, very thin pastry that I can see through, and that is wonderful. That's what we're looking for. I'll just put that one over there as well. So you want to be looking at about 3 or 4 layers of there we're going to be using to make up and roll up to make our pastry on this one. So you've got your pastry pieces ready. So you should look, let's go back to it again. It should look to something a little bit like, there we go. It should look something like the thinness that's coming out of number 7. Now squeeze out the moisture. Now that's with, sorry, that was with my filling. Now we're going to got the filling there. We've got the top there. Sorry, this left over the filling. So it's just to squeeze out the moisture from our fillings and put in some olive oil and yogurt if you want to. That's for your filling. But we're rolling out the dough using the pasta machine or rolling pin to a very thin layer. Now we're going to gently stretch for number 8 with back of your hands, lay it on paper, brush with 50 grams of melted butter and add more layers, I've said. So place the mix along the edges. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, we're going to show you now how to make that wonderful shape in number 9. Okay, so we're going to show you how to do this one right now. So here we go, and then we'll put our filling back into there, and I'm going to add my egg and a little bit of yogurt and oil to my mix as well before I put it into the middle. Now it's cooling down. All right, so let's go back to me. I'm going to show you how we're going to construct this final piece. All right, so on my work surface, I've now got some greaseproof paper here. So if you grab yourself a piece of greaseproof paper, we're going to be covering our work surface with greaseproof paper, so it finds it easier to roll out and roll back into our shape that we want to create. So I've got my greaseproof paper there. Just going to cover my board with that greaseproof paper. If you haven't got greaseproof paper, you could use tin foil. Yes, you could use cling film, but greaseproof paper is ideal. All right. So greaseproof paper there, covering my board. Now, onto that, I'm going to put my first layer of pastry. Okay, so I've got, you just see that on the board there. I've got my first layer of pastry going onto there. Now, what am I going to do now to glue the other layers together? So I'm going to use more fat to create those different individual layers now of this laminated Filo pastry to get that lovely crispiness. Now, to do that one, I'm going to need to get some melted butter. So I've got some butter over here. Let's go grab the butter together. Butter's just over here now. It's a little bit of that butter that we did before. It's just going to put it into the microwave there for a few seconds. Just going to melt that one off in the bowl there, and get that with a bit of paintbrush over the top of it. So you could use a pastry brush or just a little paintbrush like that if it's nice and clean, or a new one. I'm going to use that one today to go over the top of mine. But if you've got a pastry brush with you, that's great. Use an actual pastry brush with yourself there as well. All right, let's have a check that butter is nice and melted. It is. So got my butter there. You can just about see that one. Oops, not quite. I'll bring it over and show you. All right, so I've got my melted butter there. I've got my brush, and I'm now going to just brush the butter over the top. Loads of butter over the top of this one. So this is a treat one, not necessarily one you want to be having all the time. It's got quite a lot of fat on this one, but the skill of being able to produce this is very high. Okay, so this is one of your high-level skills. So you're thinking of GCSE, Filo pastry would be along with lots of other types of pastry. There's lots of types of pastries out there. We try puff pastries, and there's a video on YouTube for the puff pastry. Choux pastries, another advanced pastry, but so is a Filo pastry. It's got all this work going in to create it. There we go. So I've now got the first layer off there. I'm going to put another layer, just overlapping slightly to try and fill up my whole sheet here. So I've just overlapped that, about half of that one. I'm just going to cover that one over with butter as well. Cover it all over, paint it all over the top here. All right, loads, lathering this on. Lots and lots of butter on this one. And I'm going to just put on my third layer, overlap that one as well. Okay, so my third layer I've got there, lovely and stretchy. You can see I'm be able to mold that one with my hands and stretch that one a bit more. Okay, I'm just going to put that one over the top again. Just put some more of that wonderful butter over the top there. Just glue that all down. Brush all that all over the top. That's going to help the crispiness on there as well. There we go. Lots on there. Okay, so we're ready to go with our pastries. We've layered it up, we've overlapped them, we've layered them up onto our greaseproof paper there. Now back to our filling. So we've got in our filling there, you can just see that. So we've got in there the nettles, the cheese in there, we've got the spices in there, the nutmeg and the paprika. I'm going to, in with that, I'm going to be putting a little bit of yogurt now and a tiny bit of, a little yogurt and some egg in there. So I'm going to be putting that. So if you have a look on there, I didn't put that in earlier because we didn't want that to form a scrambled egg. But if I show you there, let's go send live now. There we go. So you can see now what we've got going on there is I gently stretched it with my hands, laid it on the paper, brushed it with melted butter, adding more layers. I could add more layers as I go there, so I had a couple more layers on top of that one. So if you've got more rolled out, put some more layers on top of that one as you go. Now the mix, I'm going to put in the mix, my mix into a bowl now. I'm going to add in with that mix a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to add in some egg in there as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of yogurt in there. Just get a tablespoon of yogurt in there, 2 tablespoons in there with the egg. So in with that will go that, and I'm going to mix all of that together. Right, let's go back together and we'll form this into a shape now, and you can see what I mean. All right. So I put my mix into a bowl there, and in with that I'm going to add to my eggs. So now if you haven't got eggs, if you're not doing that with the eggs, that's fine. Just put the chicken back over here. So we're going to put the egg in there though. You could also put cream cheese, you could put vegan cheese into this one, that's fine, that will work very well. You could put a little bit of vegan yogurt, or if you wanted to, you can just put traditional yogurt into there. So I've got my egg into there that's cracked in. I'm just going to stir in my egg, mix into that one, and we'll put into that one a little bit of yogurt as well. Just going to put a tablespoon of natural yogurt into that. You don't have to. If you don't want to, if you haven't got that at home, that'll work fine. Just grab some yogurt out of the fridge. There we go. So we've got a little bit of yogurt in there. Just going to put a tablespoon of that yogurt in there as well. What's in there actually? Just to build that one up. Okay, so we've now got that mix is starting to look really yummy. Oh, good bit of natural yogurt there. That's really lovely. Organic natural yogurt. I'm just going to mix all of that together now into my. You can see that into the middle now. That's looking beautiful. All right, so that's my mix there. Hopefully your mix looks something similar to that. Now, what do we do next? We're going to be putting that mix. Move the camera down so you can see. We're going to be putting that mix along one side. Okay, so I'm just going to form a line of that mix along one side there of the pastry. Okay, here we go. All the way along. There we go. That's my mix done there. So just move that one in my fingers so it goes all the way along there. Try and get it as evenly spaced as you can. You all see that one? Brilliant. And now I'm using the paper now. I'm going to pull the ends up first. I'm going to use the paper now and I'm going to roll this up. Okay, so now I've only got 3 I've done here, but I would probably put a few more on top of there when I'm doing this one normally. Okay, I'm just going to brush a bit more of that butter between as I start to roll this one. Okay, it's rolling it up nicely. We'll put some more of that butter in there. I'm going to get some more of that butter, some more of that over here. If you can also put some oil on there as well. There we go. I'm just going to brush that one. Oh, that's going to make it lovely and crispy. Keep rolling that one up. You can carry on using the paper just to roll that one through. Okay, brush that one down, seal off the edges there. A bit more oil on there. Roll that one up tightly, make sure it's all nice and tight and even. It is. Okay. Brush that again with a little bit more of that melted butter. Now, here's the fun bit. We're going to now start to put this onto a tray. So I've got myself a tray just here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that underneath my greaseproof paper and then ease my greaseproof paper and my pastry, stuffed pastry, into the middle here. Okay, lift that one up. Now, starting with one end, we're going to then form a spiral going all the way round. Okay, so we're going to go spiral it all the way round. So we have our beautiful shaped Börek. Okay, so that's what yours should look like. Onto there, and then that is going to the oven. Now the oven does need to be preheated before we start to do that, so the oven's going to need to be preheated. So here we go. The oven will need to be preheated to 220 degrees. That's gas mark 7. So I'm just going to do that one right now before I finish off the top of this one, and we're just going to glaze the top in a moment. So before I do that one, I'm just going to go and preheat the oven. Get that one up to there. 220. Gas mark 9. So if you can all go and just preheat your ovens for a few moments there, and you want to be, say, getting that up to 220 or gas mark 7. Okay, so it's quite a high one there, but 220 or gas mark 7. All right, everyone's going okay? Oh, we've just got a new message on the side there. Let me go back to the messages while we wait for that. Do they all have to be the same size? No. With your pieces of pastry, when you're doing that one, they don't have to be all the same size. You're going to be layering them up. So remember, you're going to be putting them onto a tray there, overlap them all so you can fill a tray. And then once you've overlapped them all, so you've got a nice big space in the middle. Then once you've done that, we then put your filling down one side, roll it up into a sausage, and then spiral that sausage there to form that distinctive taste shape of the Börek. Okay, Börek on the side there. So that's absolutely fine. No, they don't all need to be the same size there, Lauren. You don't have to worry about that one. Any other questions on the side there as we go through this one? No, any other questions for me? Good, excellent. Okay, you're all doing a good job. You're doing. I haven't seen any photos of any of them yet. Let's have a look. No, you're doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good. All right. So I've now got my wonderful piece there. Now, before I put this into the oven, because the oven's preheating over there, I need to go and cover this one. So if I go back to the recipe, let's just flick back to the recipe again, so you can see where we're up to. There we go. Oops. I'm going to go and do the. Oops. There we go. It's clean for you. Okay, so on the screen now you've got the recipe again. So we're going to be using, you've seen there on number 9, we spiraled this one. We're going to add some yolk to the rest of the butter, and we're going to brush that over the top. So we're going to get another egg yolk and we're going to brush that over the top. Now you get really long ones. You can see how thin you can make massive ones. Now ones on the number 9 and 10 we've got there. What's happened with those ones is they've been made on a whole table. So rather than just using a chopping board, the whole table has been used there, and that way you get to see a massive long spiral, and obviously the spirals get bigger and you thin out, your mixture goes across those pastry because it's larger, and you get the longer and thinner ones. Okay, so that's where we're going to get to the next. So I'm going to add the egg to that. Then once we've done that, I'm going to just flick forward to the next one. Excess pastry, what we can do there and what we can fill them with. So I'm going to just show you very quickly what we can do with the other one as well, with a very simple cream cheese. There is a recipe on there for a creme pat, which is what we do in year 10 and year 11. So you can have a go at that if you want to, but I'm going to just show you how to very quickly make some little fruit tartlets to go with this one, with the remainder of the recipe. Okay, so we're going to be going straight back to this. How long do they bake for? Well, they bake for about 15 minutes, as it says on there. Now I'm going to go back to me, and we'll just show you the very last bit. Okay, so here we have the very last bit. So we're going to be doing for our wonderful Böreks there. We're going to be doing mixing in with what's left of our melted butter. We're going to put in there an egg yolk. So let me just crack the egg here. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to take. We only need the yolk for that to form a lovely. If you want to put the whole egg in, you can do. You can take the white for making meringues. There we go. So I'm just going to put the egg yolk in with that. So I'm going to mix in the egg yolk and the oil, the watery melted butter, and it's melted because the temperature is changed, and it's now changed to a liquid, and that changing from a solid to a liquid, and remember, is going back to our words there, fats and plasticity. That's the word we need to be looking at today. So I've got that mixed now. I'm going to just put that onto the top there, brush all that so we get a beautiful golden colour, and it's also going to make it wonderful and crisp again on the top there. So I'm just going to cover that at the top. You could put some seeds on the top, maybe some sesame seedling seeds on the top there. Just do some go on the top. You could do poppy seeds. If you've got any of those sort of things, you want to make it more nutritious still, that's fine. That would work nicely. There we go. Now, so if you haven't got a tray, you can use an old pie dish to put this in to form the shape there. I'm just going to make sure I've properly covered all of that. I'm going to very quickly show you what you can do to make a sweet dish to go with this one as well, using the remainder of your Filo pastry. There we go. That's looking wonderful. Look at that. Beautiful. Covered all the way around. It's looking gorgeous already, and it's not even cooked. There we go. Brush that all the way around. Wonderful. That's what it should look like. might be bigger, might be smaller ones. That's fine by me. So that's our one piece done, ready to go in the oven. Just waiting for our oven to preheat there. All right. While we wait for that to preheat, and we're going to go and get those into the oven, what can we do with the remainder to make a nice piece of sweet one? So I did say we'd make a sweet pastry last week, so we can do a sweet one with this one. So I've got left back some of my little balls of Filo pastry. So I'm going to roll those ones out. I'm going to show you what we can do with that. I'm going to keep hold of my mix for that, so don't worry about that. We'll roll these out. Now for this one, if you've got a muffin tin or a cupcake tin, this will work really nicely. Or if you haven't and you still want to be able to do this one, what you could use is you could use small tuna tins. Tuna tins work really nicely. Put them onto a tray. That would work really nicely for this one as well. So just use what you've got at home. I'm going to go and grab myself some muffin tins there. Here we go. All right. So I've got a little muffin tin there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up these ones. Now I've got a non-stick one here, or like I say, you could use just as a standard muffin tin or a cake tin. That would work fine. Or if you haven't, just use some little tuna tins to do that one. What you need to do first of all is just make sure you grease all the insides. So grease the insides. Not so much of a problem with these Teflon ones. Sorry, these rubber ones here. But otherwise, you want to really make sure that they're properly greased before you do this one. All right, pastry, same as before. We just need to roll out our pastry. So put some flour onto there. Okay, some flour onto there. Roll out our Filo pastry, so it's leaf size again. So we're looking at leaf thin and that Filo thin pastry. So rolling that one out really loads. So I'm just going to do that one now. So just rolling that one out so it fills the board, so you can see it going underneath. You can start moving it around there. Okay. Rolling it out. Okay, so it just fills my board. Okay, now I'm going to make these ones into little squares. So I'm going to try and make 4 little squares. I'm going to cut these up into squares. I'm just going to roll them out a bit more so we can get really thin. The thinner it'll be, the crispier these will be. Okay, so you can see that's really getting thin now. A lot of effort into these ones, and you can make these into beautiful ones. Now I'm going to use some fruit on these ones, but what fruit you use is entirely up to you. If you can get hold of fresh fruit at the moment, then you're a brilliant person, and you've got to manage to get hold of them in one way or another. There's lots of ways you can get hold of fresh fruit, but we haven't got fresh strawberries or raspberries here, so you can use frozen ones, which work just as well, same sort of nutritional content, or you can use canned ones, which will work really lovely as well. So we'll use what you've got in the larder, and it doesn't have to be a particular type of fruit. This works with lots of different types of fruits to make these little fruit tarts. But here we go. You can see that what we've got there. Beautiful thin pastry. The thinner, the better. There we go. All right, now with my pastry here, I'm going to now cut that into quarters. I'm going to try and make this. So I'm going to try and make them into squares. Let's go. I'm going to just save these bits for a bit later. Okay. Okay, you see that? I've made that one into a large kind of squarish pattern here. There we go. Now I'm going to divide that into 4. And a bit like we did previously, we're going to put a little butter to go between those, so a bit of melted butter. I'm going to brush these squares. You can just see that there's 4 squares there. There we go. Yep. So I'm going to brush these squares with a little bit of the oil. There we go. Fabulous. And I'm going to overlay another. Do that one. The angle there. Okay, I'm going to just brush that one over there. And you can just sort of keep adding layers of these on if you want. And another one there, just randomly adding them all on. There we go. More there to glue them all together. I'm going to add another one. There we go. So I've got lots of different layers there of my pastry all stuck together. I'm going to put those inside one of these trays. Okay, just going to ease that one in. Okay, you see I've just eased that one in, just push that one around the side. I'm going to just glaze this one off the side. A bit more butter and the egg one. This is the butter and egg mix now, slightly different mix. And just brush that one over to the top. Beautifully done, wonderful. Okay, can you see that one? Now you can repeat this for all of your, if you're in a muffin tray or a tin, and you just carry on like that. Now inside this one, a little bit of cream cheese works really nicely with this one. Cream cheese and icing sugar, or if you want to make it, have a go at making a creme pat. The recipe is on there for making a creme pat. A creme pat is like making a cold custard that goes in there. Beautiful in there. But I'm just going to show you very quickly. If you have a look now, we are now at. Let's send that one out. We have a look at the recipe here. We go down to the next one. You see what I've done? I've done it into squares there. I've done 6 on those, and we just make those into little, and we can just cover them over, put them into the trays like that, bake them up. Now, once you've baked them, mix in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put icing sugar and cream cheese and a little bit of vanilla. So once they're cooked, mix up a little bit of icing sugar, cream cheese. You could use a natural yogurt as well, icing sugar and natural yogurt with a bit of vanilla in there. Fill up your little shells, your Filo nests up, and then put some fruit on the top. And they are absolutely delicious little raspberry tartlets for pudding. So you can get some fresh fruit in there, or you can get frozen fruit in there and just let them defrost for a little, or you can put some canned fruits in the top of these, and they are absolutely beautiful. So if you fancy using up your Filo pastry like that, that is a lovely thing to do. Okay. Now, we get back to me. Okay, so we've now got some little Filo pastries. Next, we're going to cook off into the oven, and we've got our wonderful Börek filled with the nettles and our natural onion. So nettle, forage, and onion. Cheese, egg is in the middle of that one as well. All mixed up there with a little bit of yogurt into the middle of that one, ready to bake along with those. That is both your savoury and your sweet option. They need to get ready to go into the oven and to bake off. Take about 15 minutes to bake off. Golden brown is what you're looking for, and I need to see some pictures. So if you're watching this at Talking Girls Grammar, please send me your photos. It'd be really, really good. And you will post those onto the school Facebook site. That would be lovely. So if you can do that one, that would be really, really great. Post them to me, or email them to me. Post them through the here, or put them on email to me, and we'll use those ones on the school. If you're on YouTube, please feel free to email me through YouTube, or post them on the bottom what you felt about how it went, and for you that would be great. I'd love to see your pictures too. And if you want to see what the girls at Talking Girls Grammar School did, have a look on our Facebook, and you can see a lot of the things that they've been baking with us. Fabulous. Any more questions before we go? I'm going to let you bake those ones off. Very important before you go though, let me just make sure you have got the last little bit ready to go. And the last little bit, girls, I'm Talking Girls Grammar, or if you're watching at home, is washing up and clearing up. Don't forget to collect all the equipment you've used, wash everything up using the right method, dry it and clean using a tea towel, and put everything away once you've been checked, not by a teacher, because we're on remote learning, but make sure that a grown-up checks that you've cleaned up your area nice and tidily. I want to make sure you leave the kitchen when you arrived. Okay, so nice, neat and tidy for the grown-ups at your household. I don't want any mess being left all over the place. All right, so make sure you are doing that one. All right, back to me now. Okay. So thank you again for joining me today. Don't forget to post your pictures of what you've done. Thank you very much for being with us, whether you've been on the YouTube or whether you've been with Talking Girls Grammar, or both. It's been great to see you. Take care, stay safe, look after yourself, look after others. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.